Bienvenue à la talk sur Android Auto. N'oubliez pas d'attacher vos ceintures. Rough. Basically, I just want to say welcome to this Android Auto talk. Please put your seatbelts and enjoy this ride. It's a pleasure to be here once again at Android Makers. I really love this conference. So a bit to warm up everyone, just give a big round of applause to all of you and to the organizers of this amazing conference. So come on, join me. Thank you. Thank you. Nice. So I've created an application using Android Auto. This is the application that you're seeing. You can see here the car display showing this application. Basically, there is a project that was made by John O'Reilly and Martin called Confetti, which is going to be a talk tomorrow after lunch about the project. And with this existing mobile app, I gave support for Android Auto, as you can see. You can also see that the trip back from Portugal to here, it's 16 hours, but don't worry, I came by flight. Bonjour. So, who am I? My name is Carlos Mota. I'm from Portugal. You can find me on Twitter at @CFonsMota. I've been developing for Android for the past 11 years, and for the past 5 working a lot with Kotlin multi-platform, and now Android Auto. And I love to travel, photography, and running. And I'm going to try to speak French again, saying Je suis ravi d'être ici à Android Maker. Hope this time sounded better. I'm trying something new, so I have a couple of resources like the slides, the source code, and a couple of resources that I found. And I thought it was a good idea, instead of being copy and paste from one place to the other, to just use Linktree. So feel free to access via this QR code or the link here on top. I'm also going to tweet this, but it's easier to have everything in the same place. So we are in a conference that has Android on its name. So who has an Android phone? Just put your hands. Ah, so happy. So we've all have an Android phones. Android is basically everywhere. We've got an Android smartphone, we've got a tablet. Now the foldables are gaining a lot of adoption. We have the watches, we have a fridge. There are rumors that there are Android fridges out there. I think that saying that if it has a screen it will have Doom on it. We can also have it with Android. We have TVs, we have the Pixels book that can run Android applications, and we have the cars. And I'm going to use this animation a lot of times today because I think it was really fit for here. So let's talk a bit Android for cars. See? Perfect. So while I was researching about this topic, I noticed that we spent an average of 600 hours of a year on our cars. This number is from the United States, from England, but if you go to the United States, the value is a bit bigger. In France, it's almost the same. In Portugal, it's a bit lower, but yeah, it's around 600 hours. And it might not seem much, but if we change this to days, it means that almost 1 month per year we're spending on our cars. And what we are doing on our cars, we are commuting, we are going to groceries, we are on family trips, but we almost lose an entire month doing almost nothing. So I had this question, what do you do while commuting? And I've asked this online and I received a couple of answers. Like, I like to listen to music. I don't do anything. I listen to podcasts. Some people sing. Someone said sleep. And I really hope it's the passenger and not the driver, because we're not yet there in autonomous driving. Some people dance, which is great. Someone answered me, record a podcast, and I thought, okay, this is an amazing idea to try to feel productivity with this. And I listened to the podcast, and it's really good. But this also means that, and these numbers has been rising for the past years, that 36% of people driving, they're using their phones to read texts, to read emails. And yeah, this is on a red background because it's really dangerous. And in Europe, we're around 10-30% of road collisions with our phones. And this number is increasing a lot because before, and what I'm going to say it's wrong, so people would just reply to a single message, But now with internet and social networks, we're spending every time more time on our devices. There are people checking their Facebook pages, Instagram profiles, TikToks, whatever. And we're spending more time doing this while driving because most of our drives are bored. So how can we solve this? Google has been betting on this for quite a few time, and they brought us Android Auto, Android Automotive, and Assistant Driving Mode. Android Auto is similar to what I have here. So it's a car head display that you can use, and basically it's a projection of app that you have on your device that you can use on your car. And there is this mount, and there is already attached to the cars. This support needs to be done on your Android app, so it's a single app that you have, and you just add this support, and requires your phone to be connected to the device. It also runs the same way on all of the cars. It's not possible to customize. It's a single version. Then we have Automotive. Automotive is an operating system that you install on your car that runs Android. And as you can see, you have a lot more options. For instance, you can turn on and off the AC. It's integrated with the car itself. It also means that you need a separated APK or app bundle to run it. And you can install it without having your device. It's basically what you have on the watch, where you can just install a standalone application. Also, this is great for vendors, for manufacturers, because they can customize a bit the colors and the styling. Of course, they still need to apply to Google's guidelines for this, but they can create their own product with this. And finally, we have something that I've been using for quite a while, without knowing that it had the name Assistant Driving Mode. Basically, when you use Google Maps, if you're driving, you can see this bottom bar, and basically it gives you shortcuts for common actions. For instance, you can use Assistant to talk with your phone and make a call, answer a call, and so on. You can have a shortcut menu to all the main apps. For instance, you want to use Spotify, you can do it just with one tap. So the goal is to give you a set of features that you can easily access, and they won't distract you that often. Also important to mention that this is not really available on all countries. Supposedly it's in Europe and the United States, but even in Europe I noticed that a few countries don't have this functionality yet. Why is Google betting on this? Well, they want to limit user distraction, reduce the number of road collisions. To achieve this, they want to give users quick access to features that they use often, and of course enable voice commands so they don't need to look at the screen and just being tapping. You can just speak and you're focused on the road, and in the end it's going to be a more enjoyable and safe ride. So let me talk a bit about Android Auto. So it's important to mention that we are around 100 million cars with Android Auto, which means these are 100 million users that you can reach. And we already have a set of applications on the store, and from different types. We've got Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Google Podcasts, New York Times, BBC, WhatsApp, Telegram, Maps, Waze, Home Assistant, and our own Confetti app that you can install. So why Android Auto? Basically, you want to empower drivers with your app. Don't forget that they spent one entire month driving your car, so it would be good for them to have something that they could be using and more enjoyable ride. It's a new market that you can reach, and to be honest, it's quite easy to implement and give this support because there is a thing called App Library that already gives you a lot of features that you can use. So let's talk a bit about Car App Library. So what does this? So the Car App Library is going to give you a couple of templates that are vehicle optimized, meaning that your UI is going to be that one. You cannot really change your UI. That UI was specifically created to minimize user distractions. It has specific strict rules that you need to obey for your app to be inside the car. It's also really good because, well, it's Android, so we have fragmentations on this type of devices. There are ones that are wider, there are others that are smaller, that have a bigger height, and this UI will automatically adapt to all screens, and the best thing is you don't need to care about it. It's done automatically. and it already handles your user input. So it's quite easy to add support. You add this library, and the first step is done. The second one is you're going to connect your phone to your car head display. And with this, you need to set some specific metadata for your app to be displayed there. So the first one is you need to say that you're going to be providing a car application, and you need to define an XML resource. This XML resource is used for Android Automotive, so for the operating system. And in this case, what we set is we're just going to use the template, and you don't need to do anything more. So there are more metadata that you need to define. One is the theme. In this case, we're just going to use the default one. And the third one is which API level your app supports. In this case, we're just going to use the first one, and we're currently on API level 6, which is not still available for everyone. I think the majority is 5, but Google is developing API 6. Now that you have this part done, it's important to just say that when you create an app for Android Auto, it needs to be in one of these categories. So there are 6 different categories. The first one is an audio app, so for podcasts, for radio, etc. The second one for navigation, for messaging, where you receive a message and display a notification, and the message can be read out loud, or the user can reply with voice, and so on. Then we've got point of interests, which is the category that we've selected for Confetti, because we're going to allow the user to navigate to the conferences. You have Internet of Things. For instance, you're arriving home and you want to open your garage door. And you've got video apps that only work if your car is parked, and it's only for automotive at this moment. So, okay, you've got your device connected, you've got the metadata added. Now you need to define a car app service, so your app can run. So imagine that you're going to click on your app is going to be launched, and what you're going to do is, okay, you define your service that is going to extend the car app service, and you need to define intent filter. The first one is you need to define an action, that's when the user clicks it, and then you need to define the category where your app is located. In our case, it's a point of interest, so it needs to be POI. Also, it's important to mention that it needs to be capitalized, otherwise the app will get rejected. Trust me, or trust us that this happened to us. Now, the app is going to be launched. What's going to happen is there's going to be called the create host validator. Basically, this function is just to limit where your app can run, and this host validator is going to basically see if your device is capable to run the app. If it's okay, it's going to call on create session, and you're going to call on create screen. This is done automatically, and it's going to call the template. In this case, I'm just going to use a list template to show the next conferences, let's say. This is really simple to do. So you've got your car app service, the service that you're going to extend, the host validator, and in this case, all the apps that I saw, they're all using Google's default values for this. So you don't need to care about this unless you want to create a blacklist or a whitelist of devices. Once this return true, on create session is called, and on create screen, and here you're just going to load the screen that you want to show. So I've been talking about screens and templates and a lot of cool things, and let me just show you why templates exist. So templates were designed for driving, and they have a really strict rules that you need to follow for implementation. So you should really read the documentation on this. Otherwise, what's going to happen is you're going to run your application and it will crash because you're forgetting to set something, or you're setting something that, and you're setting something that shouldn't be set. More important of everything, it's this third point. The goal of these templates is to show the information at a glance. So the user is driving and he can just quickly look at the car display to Android Auto and is capable to see the most important information. These templates were built thinking on that. So in the end, this crashed destruction. There are already a list of templates available. A couple of things important to say. Sign-in template and long message template required for the car to be parked. Sign in because, well, you need to sign in with your device, and you shouldn't be using your device while driving. And the long message template because it's a long message and it's going to take you time to read that message. Also, an important thing to mention is the tab template. It's only available on API level 6. There are apps like Spotify or the native dialer that are using this template, but it's close to them. So if you try to use this template, your application is going to crash because there's still no API level 6 available. So let's see a quick example. Imagine that you have this list that on our app, it's the conference list. If you want to use this template, what you just need to do is, okay, you've had that on create screen before, so you're going to call list template.builder. This is the default template. You're going to set the title. In this case, it's our app name. You define the header that I'm going to use the app icon. I could also use the option back, but since it's the first screen, it doesn't make sense. And then I'm going to define a list that I want to add to this template. And this is the most difficult part, which is, okay, I've got my list of conferences, and I'm going to iterate over each one of these conferences and create a row builder and set this title. So, I don't know, it's 10 lines of code and you can create a screen quite easily. Don't need to care about UI, you just need to do this and that's it. Now imagine that you want to create something more complex, like this screen, where you have a couple of sections header. This is the schedule. So if you want to do something more complex, you're still going to use the list template, but now you need to add a section item list. So basically, you've got your list builder that you created before. You add your header, in this case the start time, and now instead of using the list builder as before, you use this list template that you've created here. And that's it. And with this, you've got a sectioned item list. But we can go a bit further and imagine that we have a grid, a set group of speakers. You add your list template. Now, if you want to have a grid, well, you just need to call the grid template. And instead of adding the row builder, you're going to call the grid item. Of course, here I also define the text and image because I wanted to display it. And I changed the action in this case to be back. And that's it. I have a grid automatically implemented. Important things to say about templates. They have mandatory properties. There is a number maximum that you can use on a template. So imagine that you have your contact list and you have 500 contacts there. You won't be able to show 500 contacts. So the solution is to just show your favorites and allow the user to search for a specific contact. Also, it's important to mention there is a limit of 5 templates that can be pushed. So imagine that you want to go to a talk, you need to do that under 5 screens. Otherwise, your app is going to be killed by the system because an action should be available within 5 screens, once again, because you don't want to distract the user. What if there is no template for my use case? You can request on Google Issue Tracker to create a template for you, explaining why, or, and I'm going to say this to do it at your own risk, because, and it's important to mention that your app is going to be evaluated by Google, so you need to follow all the Google app design guidelines for cars. But there is a gray area where you can implement your own template, but once again, be specific, careful with that. Basically, you have access to the canvas, so basically you can draw there anything. You just need to have a surface callback and use a navigation template for this. How can you achieve this? So you create a surface callback. When the surface is available, on surface available is going to be triggered, and you basically can draw everything, anything there. In this use case, basically what I wanted was just to show a full screen image, and there is no template for full screen, and I had this by myself. When the template is going to be created, you just need to set the surface callback, which is going to be triggered automatically when the screen is going to be built. And once again, you're going to use a navigation template for this. And you can achieve something like this. Okay? Once again, and it's on red on purpose, if you want to follow this approach, be really careful about it, because your app can be blocked on the store because you're not following the guidelines. We're not doing this on Confetti, but I've done this on the past, and I read a lot of times the app car design guideline just to guarantee that we could do this, and it's working fine and it was accepted. So how to run? You can run your application if you don't have a car display on the simulator, and you can install their debug applications. You can use the car head unit that you need to have an app on the store, or you can use your car, which might not be the best place to work on, but it's going to be fun to just sending APKs or app bundles and test it on the car. Some lessons learned along the way. So templates aren't composable. I know that we all love composable and compose, but they are not. Basically, templates already exist. So you can't use really image vectors. If you want to add an image, you need to add the image as a file, as a drawable file. There's no perfect solution for fetch an image. Basically, what you need to do is, okay, you're going to fetch that image, or using coil, or implementing yourself the mechanism, and once that image is retrieved, you just need to call invalidate to redesign the screen. Some templates might be missing, and not all templates for now are backward portable. So you might need to do some things like, if car API level is 6 or further, use this template, otherwise use another one. Also, if you're going to send app to the store, don't forget to use keep on ProGuard, read the documentation. I know this is really important. Otherwise, when you're using the app, you're going to see that you missed some property that needs to be set. And of course, you can always check all the examples that Google has under Android X GitHub repo. Some quick takeaways. Simplicity is key. You want to show only the information that is needed to the user. Don't try to show everything to the user. It needs to be focused on the road and not on the screen. Use voice input actions for this, and your app needs to be adapted to the car and not the other way around. So try to think as the perspective of someone driving and not from someone that wants to add all the features on the car. And of course, keep your tasks flow short. Questions?